So, as tests, the Rebbe dropped a nuclear bomb that the Americans didn't blow up, and told us that the source of those three levels of light that we've been talking about, the whole Maimer, Mamalei, Sevev, and Atzmus Ein Sof, the source of those three levels of light is actually the three levels of Ava, B'chol Levavcho, U'B'chol Nafshecho, U'B'chol Me'odecho. And not the other way around, as we usually understand in Chassidus. Again, usually in Chassidus, we talk about levels of godly reality, and then we explain how those levels of godly reality are expressed in the Aveda that we do. But here, the Rebbe making that diuk in the lashon of the Rebbe Shab, where the Rebbe Shab mentions that by virtue of understanding the three levels of Ava, you come to a greater understanding of the three levels of light, Mamalei, Seviv, and Atzmus Ein Sof. The Rebbe took that to the limit and explained that that means that ultimately the source of those three different levels of light is our Aveda, and not the other way around. And that, we explained that makes, ultimately, it does make perfect sense based on the fact that up there in the beginning of it all, in Atzmusa Yisbarach, in the essence of the Eibishter, what taiva did the Eibishter have? He had a taiva for Vedas Hadam. He had a taiva for us to do mitzvahs. And created your B'daktenim as a result of that taiva. So that means the source of it all is our Veda, and a very essential part of our Veda, those three different levels of love. And so what happens as a result of that? Certain godly levels of reality come into being, come into existence, come into a state of revelation as a result of the fact that since we have three different states of love, so then there are three different levels of godly reality. And again, not the other way around. Not that since there are three different levels of godly reality, therefore we respond with three different levels of love. No, the love came first. Why? The taiva of the Eibishter, that was the source of the creation of every single level of reality outside of the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We talked about this at length last week, Wednesday and Thursday. Every level of reality exists only because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to. There is no state of existence that is what's called mechuyev v'metzias. It must be except the Eibishter himself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And when we say that, we mean Atzmusa Yisbarach, the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every level, even of the most powerful, beyond infinite godly light, only exists because the Eibishter wants that level of light to exist. And if the Eibishter didn't want that level of light to exist, so it wouldn't exist. What would the world look like if there were certain parts of the whole process of the creative process of certain pieces were missing? The Eibishter can do whatever he wants. He's not limited in any way, shape, or form. So all of those different levels of godly light exist simply to come to this world and allow you and I to have three different levels of Ava. Therefore, the true source of Mamalei, Seviv, Atzmus Ein Sof are the three levels of Ava. That's what the Rebbe told us. It's really quite astounding. Now the Rebbe's going to explain even more. Now we talked about this outside, but we're going to see it inside. Yud. Right? We got up to Yud. V'yesh leim. Da'atam b'pnimius inyonim. The reason, in the innermost way, al zeh sham shochas v'gilui gimel inyonim, that the drawing down and the revelation of these three different states of reality, called Or Mamalei, the direct source of created reality, or Sevev, the all-encompassing light that is the source of Mamalei, and Atzmus Ein Sof, a level of light completely and totally beyond worlds. Hu al yedei gimel ha'avis debechol levav u'nafshech kol me'odecho. Right, and ultimately those three levels of light come as a result of, they exist because there are three different levels of Ava. Again, not the other way around. It's not that there are three different levels of Ava because there are three different levels of Elokus. No, there are these three different levels of godly revelation because there are three different levels of Ava. That's the Chiddush that the Rebbe taught us at this point in the Maimer. So what's the pnimis of all this? Now the Rebbe's going to say something, again, we've touched on, but now the Rebbe's going to say it beferish. Ki hakavana b'kol hagiluyim, the intention of all states of revelation, all states of godly light, the most transcendent levels of godly reality, Who, he, Bechdei Sha'al Yodam, is that through these levels of light, Tiyeh Achar Kach B'yas Olam, that there should be the creation of the world. Up there in Atzmus, again, we have to talk about it in very crass terms because that's the only way we understand reality, space, time. So up there in Atzmus, the Eibishter exists. Where he came from, we don't know, he just is. He didn't come from anywhere, we do know. He didn't come from anywhere, just is. How does that happen? Impossible to understand. There's a state of reality that is of an absolute reality. Mechuyev v'metzias, the only thing that must exist. Right? Has no source in existence, in any other existence, has no function, just is. Absolute being, yesh amiti, true being. That level of reality, for whatever reason, up there in Atzmus, the Eibishter said, a dir b'tachtonim would be a cool thing. I'd like a dir b'tachtonim, and I want that dir b'tachtonim to happen as a result of Avodas Ha'adam. I want there to be creatures down there that do things that are positive, that bring about a dwelling place for me in the lower realms. Why did he want that? Unknown. It's called a taifa. That's why Chazal call it a taifa. The nis'ave, Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael Baruch Dir B'tachtenim. He said a taifa that he wanted a dir b'tachtenim. A taifa is something that can't be explained rationally. Okay, fine. As a result of that, what happened? Every other state of reality that exists, the highest, most lofty, transcendent, unknown states of godly light, all of it, including then ultimately, or Ein Sof Shelifnei Tzimtzum, or Ein Sof after Tzimtzum, right? And then the Tzimtzumim that bring about a reality of, and again, we understand what this means now. It's Seivev, even Seivev, Naga by Tzimtzum, the Rebbe taught us. Tzimtzum affects it somehow, even though it's a light that in itself, the light itself is not affected by Tzimtzum, but Seivev is affected by virtue of the fact, infinite godly light is affected by virtue of the fact that there's, so to speak, a place where it can't go, so to speak. Where's that? Created worlds. Because created worlds, the level of light that's responsible for created worlds is called Omer Maleh, the light that fills. A level of godly light that can be clothed in vessels and bring about, allow for some sort of finite existence. Okay. Fine? Okay. So, all of that only exists in order that you and I should be able to come and sit and learn Chassidus after some maniac is trying to kill us. Right? All of that. Right? And what's the part of the maniac trying to kill us? Okay, there's a Veda. The world's not perfect, right? Asher bara Elokim lasos. You said it in Kiddush. Right? And what's lasos? L'saken. And what have we always thought that meant? That we fix the world. We have to fix the world. Okay, the Rebbe is now going to tell us that that's true, but there's more to it. Right? So everything that exists ultimately exists only that there should be a world. This world. All sorts of worlds. There's Ein Sof worlds. There's infinite amount of worlds. There's 4 worlds that we talk about that are part of that reality called Seder Ishtalshalus, Elam Atzilus, Elam Abriya, Elam Yitzira, Elam Asiya, and we should know those. Right? Okay, we should know the difference between them because we've learned about it. So those different states of reality are all Mamale. Those are the 4 worlds of Or Mamale, where what exists in those worlds? Differentiated reality. So even in Elam Atzilus, there's Or Mamale, right? And therefore what are the Kalim in Elam Atzilus? What are the Kalim that reveal godly light called? Spheres. 10 spheres. Right? So therefore there's a revelation of a reality called Chesed. There's a revelation of a reality called Gvura, Din. That's all revealed in Elam Atzilus. Until that point, all those states of reality existed, but they weren't in a state of revelation. Why not? They were all subsumed in an infinite state of light, and in infinity, there's no particular reality. You don't see A, B, C, and D, or Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet. You don't see any of that in infinite reality. Is it there? It's there. What's our mashal for it? We've used so many times. I'm not going to do it, and I'm worried I'm going to spill my coffee if I do it. What's our mashal for it? Amnon's pink. Now it's pink. Amnon's pink book, right? The light before it reflects off Amnon's pink book can basically express itself in an infinite amount of color, right? Once it hits that kli, it is defined as pink. It's as simple as that. It really isn't so difficult. Right? Okay. And that's mamale. That's the way mamale works. So our mamale in Elam Atzilus that's clothed in that kli called chesed expresses itself as chesed. Or mamale that expresses itself through a particular kli called the malach mechayel in Elam Abriya, so that it expresses itself as malach mechayel. And or mamale that expresses itself as a paper coffee cup. So in Elam Hazeh, that's the or mamale is giving that cup existence. Here it's completely hidden. Okay. You and I know it's there because we learned about it. Okay. Do we see it? No. If you do, talk to us about it before you talk to anybody else. Right. Remember once Nebuch going to visit a student in yeshiva who had lost his hold on reality to a certain degree. And he was in a hospital here in Yerushalayim, and so I went with the Rosh Yeshiva to go visit him. And it was interesting at what he was doing, I must say. What he was doing all day in his hospital bed. I mean, you could get it, walk around. He had taken a book this big, which had every Mishnah and Shas. He had ripped out every page, scrambled them, and then he was putting it back together by learning the Mishnahs, which one goes after which. So on one hand you go, wow, holy thing, but on the other hand, that's not so. So as we were walking out, we heard a conversation that you hear in Yerushalayim because it's called in psychiatric and psychological terms. This was psychiatric. It's called Jerusalem syndrome. And what's the Jerusalem syndrome? I think I'm a shiur. Right, okay. So there were two guys arguing. I mean, it's hard for him to be Mashiach if I am, right? So they were having this argument, which was rather surreal, I must say, but we were walking out and we were listening to this argument with these two guys. They were civil. And then one of them came up to the Rosh Yeshiva and said, I have a problem. I said, what's your problem? Well, I'm Mashiach, and I tell people, and they think I'm crazy, and they put me in a place like this. What am I supposed to do?
Jerusalem syndrome?
It's called the Jerusalem
Yeah,
syndrome.
it's a real thing.
Yeah, man. Yerushalayim. Mashiach. It's all going to happen here.
Maybe he's right.
Now, that guy who told me in the mikveh a few days ago, right, if Trump bombs Iran, so then Mashiach's coming, so I saw him today. I said, okay, let's go. Let's see. You know, now what? I said, I don't know whether Mashiach depends on Donald Trump. He might have something to do with it, but somehow I think Mashiach is a little bigger than Donald Trump, but who knows? So, I was a young pup, and I went with the Rosh Yeshiva to visit this student of ours, and I think I was still a student in Yeshiva. I just went to visit, as a student. I don't think I was his teacher. So, this fellow said to Rabbi Baruch Kaplan, said that I have a problem. I'm Mashiach, and I want to save the world, but every time I tell anybody, they put me in here. So Rabbi Baruch Kaplan, they told him, I said, look, some advice. It seems they're not ready. So don't tell them. Just don't tell them. Don't tell anybody. Because look what happens when you tell people. When the time's right, you'll know. But now don't tell a soul. So he's looking at him with this look. Now, this was all happening in Hebrew. It's very sage advice. I think I'm going to take your advice. So who knows, the guy might be walking around now perfectly fine, has his job, has his family, and he still thinks he's Mashiach, but he's not telling anybody, he probably asked his mashpia, like, which shidduch do I tell her I'm Mashiach? No, don't tell him. Anyway, so sometimes you don't tell people. And Izzy will agree with me on this one. You don't have to tell your wife everything either. This whole honesty is very important. Don't Chas Hashem ever lie. You have to tell your wife everything. If she knew how messed up you were, she'd never stay with you. So just, I mean, Bechlal, if women knew how messed up men are, they would have nothing to do with us, right? But Baruch Hashem, they don't know. Now, I assume there's things about them that we don't know, and we're more than happy not to know. It's called blissful ignorance. It's a very, very useful state sometimes. Right? Okay. Back to our mimer. Briyas ha'olam haisa ba'efen. Briyas ha'olam what? Lachain, I'm sorry. Fourth line, first word. Lachain, therefore, briyas ha'olam. Yeah, sorry about that. We'll close ourselves. I think that one on the right also is open. If you want to turn on the air because you're suffocating, you can. But if it's too noisy, yeah, close it all the way. It's just too noisy. Yeah, well, you can put it on the air if you want. It's just too noisy. The air's on? Oh, so then definitely close it. Like Israelis with the air on and the windows open in the car. That's like... Lachen, kamesha briyas ha'olam haisa ba'efen shekol inyanim shebei. Just like briyas ha'olam was in a way that all matters of it yit taknu will be fixed al yedei avodas adam, right? Asher bara elokim lasos. We know that lasos letakein Rashi and Chumash. Say it every Friday night, twice. Ubichdei sha'al yedei zeh. In order that through this Adam shutaf l'kadosh baruch b'ma'aseh bereishis. This is all that is a result of the fact that you and I bring about a tikkun of the world, fifth line. So then we become a shutaf for the kadosh baruch and ma'aseh bereishis. The Rebbe taught us all this. Where's the Sikha? Not Noach, and someone else, because Noach already told me. Where's the Sikha where the Rebbe discusses that inyan of why it is that the Rebbe created the world requiring fixing? Where is that? It's not the only Sikha, but where is there a Sikha that talks about that at great length and with great alacrity? Don't know. Okay. So you'll never know. That's the way it goes. Why? So we'll be a shutaf. Al derech zeh.
Is Tafresh Shama?
What?
Tafresh Shama? No, the Sikha.
The Sikha is Yural of Nisan Tafshin Lamed Beis.
Yeah.
Al derech zeh hu b'nagei lagilum de lamayla. So too relevant to the states of godly revelation above. As we just mentioned, the last thing we saw on Thursday. By virtue of doing those things that we do down here in Olam Hazeh, what do? We bring about an elevation not only in physical reality, but also in godly reality. Because the purpose of that godly reality is to come down into this world. It should be part of the process of godly energy coming down into this world and bringing about a world and a creation of a world, so that in that world there can be a Avodas Adam, there can be service of a Kadosh Baruch Hu down in this world. So all of those levels of light exist for that purpose, one way or the other. Some of them we don't know what the purpose is in that process because they're so lofty. Sometimes it seems from that little piece that we read from the Frierdiker Rebbe in footnote 65, it might very well be that the only purpose for that level is that you and I should be able to learn about it. That you and I should be able to learn about Elokus. So there's all sorts of different levels of Elokus that you and I learn about. We learn about it in Chassidus. Okay. And when we learn about it, what did the Frierdiker Rebbe tell us? We bring about an elevation in that level of godly reality. Thinking about a level of Elokus, the Frierdiker Rebbe told us in Likutei Diburim, footnote 65, right? Thinking about Elokus will bring about an elevation in that level of Elokus that we're thinking about. Why? Because that's why it exists. So that you and I can think about it and serve God as a result. Wow. And the Rebbe says, just like when you use a lulav, you elevate the lulav. So when you sit and think about a certain level of Elokus that you learned about in Chassidus, or you learn about it in Chassidus, so you're elevating that level. So what does that mean? Well, that means what the Rebbe is telling us right now. That when it says, Asher bara Elokim lasos, that we bring about a tikkun in creation, so everybody thinks reasonably so that tikkun means we bring about a tikkun in this world, which is so obviously imperfect. No. We bring about a tikkun in every level of reality outside of the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, because every single level of reality is dependent on our avodah. And so we elevate all of it. And that's how we're going to understand the answer to the question that we asked is ches, which again, when we get to the answer, we'll mention it. Right? The question was, or not so much the question, the explanation that the Rebbe wanted to explain. We said as follows. We said that Moshe Rabbeinu, the usher, is the one who davens for the revelation of Atzmos or Ein Sof down here, because that'll bring about a binyan ad yad. That'll bring about an everlasting geula. Geula shein acharei golus, geula mitzvah shlema, in the language that we're more used to in the Rebbe. Okay. Right. Why does it have to be tefillah? Because it has to be avodah from below. Why does it have to be avodah from below? Because if it's only from above, what will happen? That level of light will be revealed in the world, and the world will be in a certain state, but it won't be in that state because of the world. It'll be in that state because of the light being revealed. It'll be imposed on us. But the mashal we used was Yitzias Mitzrayim. Right? An incredible level of revelation imposed on the people, but they weren't caring for it, so nothing happened. I mean, these things all happened in the world. There were these incredible miracles. There's not that the world didn't change, but the people didn't change. Okay, and the idea is that the world itself should be a kli for all of this. So therefore it has to come from below. So that's the first level of advantage of why it has to be tefillah l'meisha. It has to be a tefillah from below. Then the Rebbe said, but even the godly light that's drawn down is a higher level of godly light as a result of our avodah. Right? That was the beginning of ches. That's what the Rebbe is finishing the explanation of now. It's going to be completely finished later on, but we're getting there now. That what? By virtue of our avodah, we elevate different levels of godly reality. So even those levels, even that atzmos of Ein Sof that's drawn down into this world experiences an elevation by virtue of our avodah. And what's the elevation ultimately? We connect it to its ultimate source in atzmos. When you reveal the purpose of something, you connect it to the source of it, what its true purpose is. What's the purpose of all these levels of godly light? So you and I can learn Torah, put on tefillin, give tzedakah, keep Shabbos, help other people, do mitzvahs. It's why it's all there. Some of it is so transcendent that it doesn't seem to have anything to do with what goes on down here. Well, okay. And it doesn't have anything directly to do with what goes on down here, but it's still part of the process. All right? So that's what the Rebbe says. Bechdei, I'm just reading this line again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th line. Bechdei, sheshutfu shel ha'adam lakadosh baruch Hu, in order that the partnership of people with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Ma'aseh Bereshis, Tzia lo yirak ba'olam atzmai, will be not only in the world itself, the physical world, the world that we live in, ela gam b'giluim b'delamayla, also in the highest levels of gilui, the highest levels of revelation. They're also affected. Wow. Shal yodam, that by virtue of these levels of godly reality, there was the creation of the world. But these highest levels of godly reality are affected positively by what you and I do. We have to finish this paragraph before we stop. We just started, but what can you do? And since the essence of Avodas Ha'adam, who Avas Hashem, is the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we've said. Now we're quoting again the Zayar, the Leis Pulchanaka Pulchanaka Derechimusa Canal. There is no service like the service of love. Canal, like we said earlier, Lochein, therefore, Hagilui, the Gimel Duregas Hanal, the revelation of these three levels of godly realities, Mamale, Sevev, and Atzmas Ein Sof, Shebehem, that in them nichlalim kol inyanim delamayla, that these three levels ultimately include in them all levels of godly light. Right? Every level of godly light is either mamalei sevev or atzmas ein sof. It's included in those general, so to speak, categories of light. So how do you reveal those three levels of light? Why do they exist? What brings them into being? It's through the three different levels of light, of love, And by virtue of the fact that these levels above, nimshachim u'mizgailim, are drawn down and revealed, al yedei avedas adam, through our aveda. Now the Rebbe says it again, explicitly. Nase behem aliyah l'mayla yesem mikmeshem mitzad atzma. It's brought about in them an elevation above, greater than they are mitzad themselves, meaning that level of godly light is affected positively by you doing mitzvahs down here. We read footnote 65, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
So here's where it's brought in the mimer. Right? And that, the Rebbe says, we'll see this tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be able to start on time. V'zeu tefillah l'meisha. That's the pshat, tefillah l'meisha. The hamshacha has to happen from the Aveda below. Because if the hamshacha happens from the Aveda below, not only is the below affected more powerfully by virtue of that hamshacha, and that's an aleph base in Chassidus, right? The only way you will ever bring about change in yourself is by changing yourself. Do not wait for some lofty power to inspire you and bring about change. Change does not happen from above. It only happens from below. We change ourselves. No one else can do it. The only person who can change you is the person whose teeth you brush, and I hope you floss now and then. It's the only person who has any control over your life. That's the only person who lives your life. It's the only person about whom your life is about. Right? Does that mean you're a selfish, disgusting person? No. Hopefully that life is about, that your life, which only you can live, is about all sorts of things that are far greater than you and far more important than you. So everybody says, only you can do that. You're the only one who can live that life. Right? No one else can do it for you. People can give you inspiration, people can give you guidance, people can give you help, people can give you support. But we're here alone. We're not alone, but we are alone. Right? Which is the scary part of it. Okay, say that. The only one who can be a proper husband to your wife is you. You want to be a good husband? So get it together and be a good husband. No one else can do that. You can go to someone for advice on how to do that, but say to them, bottom line, the only one who can be a good husband is you. The only one who can be a proper father is you. It's your kids. That's aleph base in Yiddish. Right? That it's all from below. Aveda is all from below. You want to be closer to God, so get it together. Get closer to God. What are you waiting for? Who exactly is going to do this for you? Who are you waiting for? Right? Someone's going to come in the door and do this for you? My mashpia will take care of it. No, he won't. Right? The good mashpiyim don't do that. The good mashpiyim say, no, get it together, okay? You want some air? Try this, but I mean, you have to do it. Right? That's Lamazah. So that's Tefillah L'Meisha. That's what the Rebbe is teaching us. But now the Rebbe has taught us a whole new pan, a whole new face of this reality. It's not just that we're bringing about by virtue of our Aveda below, which has to be, and that's the way the Eibishter wants it. Not only are we bringing about a fixing of the reality below, which is our reality and the reality of the world around us, which is hopefully what we see our responsibility as. Okay, but we're actually affecting the highest levels of godly reality. They are being elevated by virtue of you and I doing what we're supposed to do down here in Elamaz. Now the opposite is also unfortunately true. Right? The Rebbe doesn't talk about it here, but we can talk about it. There's an idea, talk about siluka or, that so to speak the or disappears. Why might the or disappear? Not the or that keeps the thing in existence, but if a certain event happens, so there's obviously a certain godly reality that's vitalizing that event. It's a physical object, it's a meeting of two people in the middle of the street, whatever it happens to be. So if I use that opportunity to reveal Elokus, so then I reveal the godly light that is responsible for, and elevate the godly light that's responsible for the existence of that particular situation. Whether it's a physical object called a lulav, or it's a chance meeting in the middle of the street of two people. So they use that meeting for something positive and godly and good, which doesn't necessarily mean that they teach each other everything they learned that day. It also might very well mean as simply as making sure, and we've talked about this so often, making sure that person feels better after he talked to you than he did before he talked to you. You've done something godly. Right? You've made a Jew feel good. That's good. Right? Okay. So now what if chas v'shalom, so if I do that, I elevate, not only do I elevate that person, I elevate that event. I elevate all levels of godly reality. Okay, wow. I don't know how that works, but that's pretty good. Okay. So what if chas v'shalom, I don't take advantage of that opportunity the Eibusher gave me? So then whatever godly light was destined to be revealed by virtue of that event is what's called siluk. It leaves the world, so to speak. It's not elevated, but so to speak, it leaves the world. Right. Now, that doesn't mean that event didn't exist. It existed. There's still a level of godly light giving that whole reality existence. But the deeper, more powerful level of godly light that was destined to be revealed by you in that event isn't revealed. It's there. It's waiting. It's waiting to be revealed and elevated. I missed the chance. Why? Okay, that happens. It just wasn't focused. As Rabbi Lukowski always said, I didn't have my antennae up. To keep our antennae up, pick up the signals all the time. The Eibusher's for bringing with us all the time. Are we listening, or are we stuck in our rogala and picking at the bamba? Are we actually listening to the Farbrengen? Because he's Farbrengen with us all day long. He's doing the talking, we're doing the listening. Our listening isn't just sitting there listening. Our listening is sitting there doing all those things that we do in hopefully a positive, simchadic, energized way. Hard to do 24/7? No, I can do 24/7. Say that, okay. That's true. I'm going to spend my whole time, and people do this. There are all sorts of people walk around spending their every ounce of energy that the Eibusher gives them, discussing with themselves and anybody else who will hear how hard it is to be connected to God all the time, and they have all these theories about how it's so hard and why. Okay, say, you want to live your life dealing with that? Okay, but say there's something you're just missing the boat. Right? And they have all sorts of very, very creative ways of explaining how hard it is. Right? Well, I'm a human and this and that, all sorts of stuff. Okay, take all of that creativity that's being used to explain how I can't do it, and use it to explain how I can. Same creative energy. Just use it for something positive instead of something negative. And things will happen in life. Everything, not everything. Right? The Big Bang, that's up to the Eibusher. Right? The Eibusher has to do the big one. Mashiach, that's up to him. He's going to do that when he wants to. Well, now Trump blew up there, so now according to my guy in the mikveh, so Mashiach can come down. Right? Okay. Mashiach can definitely come now. We're not opposed. This sort of up to us? Okay, l'chaim. We live in absolutely astounding times. We are watching stuff happen that is, and we're just watching it. I mean, every now and then we go into a bomb shelter because of it. We're just watching the most astounding things going on here right now. It's absolutely amazing. It's a picture of Trump talking, so who's behind this? Now I'm including Rubio in this, even though really he's not.
Yeah, so
but there was Hegseth, Rubio, and the vice president, Vance. So you can just see people watching this, and all they're thinking of, four white men who run the world, right? But now Rubio actually doesn't really fit. Rubio's Hispanic, isn't he? I assume Marco Rubio. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I know, but he looks white. When in doubt, he's white. If he's a man.
Only after bombing the crap, he goes.
So just think, how are they relating to this?
It should prove it interesting.
They're already.